Welcome to Oriam Unlocked, the podcast that brings you an insight into the lives of student athletes, elite performers, and the people shaping the future of sport in Scotland. Brought to you from Scotland's Sports Performance Centre, we go beyond the stats and schedules to uncover the mindset, the motivation, and the moment that define the journey. This is Oriam Unlocked. Let's step inside. Hello and welcome to Oriam Unlocked, the brand new podcast brought to you from Scotland's Sports Performance Centre. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Scotland's #1 ranked squash player, Greg Lobban, for this opening episode. Greg, thank you very much for joining us. How are you? How's your summer been so far?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've got a 1-year-old at home, so it's a bit chaotic at home, but for great reasons. And I've been at home a little bit in my off season, so I've got a little bit more time to spend with the family and be in Edinburgh in one place for about 8 weeks now. So I'm looking forward to the next 8 weeks and seeing what that brings. So nice. Yeah, it's been really good. Thanks.
You managed to get away yet? You been abroad, or are you getting into
We have been away in Amsterdam and Hamburg, nice. But we won't go any further. I feel like we've travelled a lot this year with my squash. My wife's been on maternity leave for a year, and we've travelled to some pretty cool places. So we're enjoying being at home over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and get back to Scottish life. Get back to
and we've had a heat wave here in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
So that's
so that'll be us for the year. Yeah, that'll be us done.
That'll be it.
So I wanted to start off, Greg. Obviously, as I mentioned, you're #1 ranked Scottish squash player. Let's go back to the beginning. Was squash sort of always your sport growing up? How did you come by it? Were you sort of in football, rugby as well, or how did that come about?
Yeah, not so much rugby, but football, tennis, badminton, hockey, every kind of sport. I played shinty up in Inverness, is where I grew up, and a bit of a rough sport, but maybe set me up for some qualities on the squash court. But I played every sport under the sun, really. Squash just happened to be what my mates did, really. It was a bit of a social element to it. We enjoyed going away on the weekends to Edinburgh and Glasgow and made a bit of a trip with the families. So that's kind of why it started. I was a tennis player mostly when I was growing up. As I mentioned, I was in Inverness. One winter, all the tennis courts froze over. So a nice heated squash court sounded pretty good to me, and that was it really. I stuck with it ever since, and that was kind of the beginning of my squash career, I guess.
What age were you at that point, when you started taking it a bit more serious? Obviously still playing for fun with your mates and things. But
probably 15. I was playing most of the junior tournaments around Scotland. I was coming down to, it wasn't necessarily Oriam at that point, it was Heriot-Watt University, and we trained at the National Centre. Squash has always been based here for as long as I can remember. So I've been coming to Oriam for, about 17 years now,
wow.
Which is pretty scary. So I was here when it was the original old dirt car park and everything like that.
Been here longer than it's been Oriam.
Yeah, absolutely. So and that's kind of where it started. As I said, the national program's been here, and I've been here ever since. So sort of at 15, I took it more seriously. I was still dabbling in other sports, especially football and tennis, but squash became sort of my my only sport at 17 years old. And that's when I started to take it pretty seriously.
Were you playing at quite a decent level in other sports? You mentioned tennis and football and things. Was that sort of with mates having a laugh, or were you kind of striving towards that as well?
No, I was playing at a decent level. I played for Inverness Cali, so we played Rangers and Celtic and everything like that at the junior level, at under 16s. Tennis, I was sort of in the regional Highlands programme, so we competed nationally and throughout Britain as part of the Highland team. So I played at a decent level at the sports that I was reasonably good at, with predominantly racket sports. But I don't know why squash, to be honest. I don't really know why I chose that over the other ones. I would like to think I could have been okay at some of them, but squash just happened. Again, I think it was the social element. I was with my friends, and my parents seemed to be having a good time with the other families that were playing these junior events, and it just suited my lifestyle, I guess, and that's why I pursued it.
Was there kind of a point, obviously you mentioned sort of 15, 16, you were taking it a bit more seriously. Was there a point where you felt that you could take this to the next step, to the professional level? Was there a moment in time that you can kind of remember where it hit you and thought, I can take this a little bit further?
Yeah, I said I'm taking it seriously, but at 17 or 18, I remember having a conversation with my parents thinking, I'm just going to like join my dad as a painter and decorator. He had his own business, and I thought, well, regular money at that age is great, and I can afford to have a few meals out and everything. So that's the kind of point where I was still playing. That was kind of my vision. I never thought that a squash player or being an athlete was really attainable. Until I played a tournament in Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Open, and I came down and I played, I think, my first round, and I managed to win my first round. I thought, oh, great. From my perspective, I didn't know there was any prize money or anything like that, so I wouldn't have paid my entry fee. My parents would have paid it, so I just had no concept of that. And then I was leaving, I lost my next round, I was leaving the venue and about to go home, and the promoter came up to me. I was like, Greg, don't leave, like, you forgot your check. And I was like, oh, wow, like a check. And I remember him writing one for £100, and I just thought, wow.
All the money in the world.
All the money in the world. Like, what can I do with this £100? I just thought this was the dream. I managed to win one match and I got £100. I started to ask, like, what if I won my next round? And that was going to be like £180. And I was like, wow. So like that was the moment where I felt like, oh, that you can actually win some money. I started to research it a little bit more and realized that obviously it's not football or golf or tennis money by any means, but it was a way that I could sustain a living at this. And I think you asked this at the start, was I any good as a junior or whatever, but I wasn't. Like, I played all the junior events growing up, and I finished sort of 60th and 65th, and I think I was number one, I think, in Scotland in some of my age groups, but not all of them. So it wasn't like I wasn't foreseeing being a top class professional squash player, but at that age I just, as I researched it, I thought this could be a living. I just worked hard, I guess, and that was the answer to maybe why I'm still doing it at the moment. Yeah,
obviously it's been a long career, but we'll move back to squash. But I kind of wanted to speak about your involvement. Obviously, you mentioned you've been coming to this campus for the best part of 17 years. You're now part of sort of the scholarship programme where you're studying at the university and playing squash as well. Can you talk us through your sort of movement towards that? Is there a reason why you decided to start studying, obviously, at this age and keep playing as well?
Yeah, there wasn't really a reason for it. I did my undergrad in Edinburgh as well when I was 18 years old, and I remember after my dissertation that year, I remember saying, like, that is it.
A lot of students after their dissertation.
There's no way I'm studying again, this is done. I guess coincidentally my wife became the head squash coach here of the scholarship programme, and I began to learn a little bit more about it. But again, even when she brought up the idea, maybe you could study because maybe it would help the squash team a little bit with a few results, and I was like, no way, that's not happening. And Ross Campbell, actually one of the heads, the big dogs of Oriam, sort of prompted the question to me, and I went home, and my wife jokes, I went home after that conversation thinking, oh, Ross mentioned this, maybe I could do that. And she never lets me forget that's maybe what pursued it. It was a rubbish idea when she mentioned it, but
take his advice over hers.
His advice. So I don't. That's really how it happened. I always knew the program was fantastic, and I just didn't really want to study. But this program that came about at Oriam was a new one, and something that really interests me. I know that I'm at sort of the latter end of my career. I'm not going to be able to do it for 10 more years or anything. So I wanted to sort of maybe tick a few boxes that might have been missing in my resume or from just being a professional squash player, and I've really enjoyed it, loved every part of it.
It's international sport management that you're studying at the moment. What difficulties have you had? Obviously you mentioned studying as a teenager and obviously not liking it as much probably as most students do with dissertations and major projects and things. Has it been quite difficult to sort of balance that studying life with your sporting life and home life, of course, as well? Has it been quite difficult to do, and has there been a lot of rewards through it as well?
Yeah, it has been a challenge, but it's not something that I've necessarily wrestled with too much. There's a lot of flexibility on the course. If ever I'm struggling with any deadlines or anything, they really accommodate the fact that I'm maybe got a busy schedule away from Heriot Watt. So in saying that, I think I have made most deadlines, but there has been flexibility, so I haven't really struggled with it too much. And the benefits to it far outweigh the difficulties with it. There's been some fantastic people they've brought in, sporting heads of organisations to come and speak with us, and the opportunities that's brought has been really beneficial to me and something that I've learned a lot from. So I'm still studying at the moment. I just have the dissertation to do, so and it's a bit of a scary word at the moment. But I've got till November to do it, so I feel like I've got enough time. But I don't want to put it on the back burner for too much longer, because I'm going to start panicking in a few weeks' time, I think.
That's the best advice to give out, is get started on that dissertation quickly. Have you got a topic nailed on as of yet?
I'm going to do sort of multi-sport participation versus early specialisation in PSA squash players. So whether growing up playing, like myself, playing football, badminton, tennis, squash, or just countries that, or players that just focus on one sport from a very early age, like what leads to more success and what maybe leads to better well-being off the court as well. So I'm interested to study it. It's hard starting, and that's the bit I'm at, but I'm excited about what the results are going to come out of, I think.
Once you're in the flow of it, you tend to enjoy it a wee bit more.
We'll see.
Well, come back to us in November. Let us know how you got on. Obviously, we've mentioned you've been coming to these facilities for so long. Now, obviously, you study on campus at Heriot-Watt as well, obviously, all in sort of one. What does this facility sort of mean to you? Obviously, we have the partnership with Scottish Squash. On our sort of daily basis here, we see all the squash players and the coaches in as well. How much has this facility meant to you in terms of your training, and what does a sort of typical training day look like for you as well, mentally and physically? Is it quite non-stop 7 days a week, or have you sort of changed it the older you've got?
Yeah, it's probably the latter. I think I've changed it the older it's got. I guess first question with the facility, I mean, I've spent like so many hours here. I've often thought of how many hours when I go into the change rooms and stuff, the same change rooms in the older section of the building, and I wonder how many like hours I've spent here. But yeah, I spend most of my days here, especially now that I'm studying. Any sort of spare hour I've got in between sessions, I kind of just go over to the campus and do catch up on a bit of work studying. So yeah, it's most of the days, Monday to Friday, I spend here. Typical training day would be 9 or 9:30. I would start the session on the court, so that I'd probably be here from about 8:30, sort of warming up and getting my body, which has got a few miles on it now, so it takes a little bit longer. So I'm usually the first one here, sort of rolling and doing my mobility stuff. Training until about midday, have some lunch, do a bit of studying, and then 3 o'clock I'll do another session. So I'm not really leaving here till 5 as well, and then go home and have some family time. So I do squash for a living, but I do see it as a bit of it is a job at the end of the day. I'm pretty much here 9 till 5, and then you're sort of, whatever happens in the evening, you're kind of thinking about the next day. So it's a pretty cool job, but it is a job at the end of the day. So it's I try and treat it as one.
Absolutely. You mentioned there you go home at night, have family time. You are recently a first-time father. I actually saw Heriot-Watt posted on Father's Day, posted something regarding it. You mentioned you've been away a few times through the year as well. Obviously, it's been a bit difficult having an extra person in the family. What's it been like for you? Obviously, playing sport professionally, travelling, different tournaments. Obviously, you have, as you mentioned, you're studying as well. Has it been quite full on at home, sort of overall?
Yeah, it has been full on. I mean, it's a really difficult one to manage, because at one point you're trying to get as good as you can at squash and kind of be remembered, or not remembered, but just kind of like prove to yourself that you want to look back on a career that you're really proud of. But at the same time, you want to be as present as you can as a father, and with the uni and stuff as well, that's kind of taken third place in terms of my priorities. It's something I want to pursue. I want to make sure I've ticked off and be proud of the work that I've put into it. But if something's got to give, it's going to be that at the end of the day. Yeah. So it's a really tough one to manage in terms of how much time you spend at home to the squash court, and obviously the time at home takes priority. So although you don't want the squash to necessarily drop off, because that's what you do day in, day out, and that's how you provide for your family and stuff. So yeah, there's no sort of two ways about it. It's really difficult, but at the same time, nothing's that difficult at home. Like when you go home and you're at home, that's the best time for me. So Yeah, it's a good question because it's really hard to answer too, because I feel like there's a lot of challenges, but I don't want to see it as necessarily too much of a challenge.
It's a joy more than
it is,
yeah.
and that's what I've chosen. It's what I wanted. So, and that's what we wanted as a family. So, there's much more joy than it is, but it does throw a few curveballs in, and you've just got to sort of deal with them. So, yeah.
Sort of wanted curveballs, were you?
Yeah, for sure. And I have to remind myself of that all the time, because it's as I said, there's so much more benefit, and it brings much more joy to my life having like a happy family and being able to provide for them and make sure that they're happy too.
Absolutely. We're going to go on to sort of back to squash here. I have some sort of quick fire questions around your squash career and how you are as well before sort of tournaments, training and things. So, do you have a pre-match superstition or ritual that you've stuck to every game, every tournament? Something that you do?
Not particularly. These quick fire answers too?
No, you can into detail.
The only time I've got of a pre-match ritual, especially when I was a bit younger, was I couldn't use the middle urinal.
Okay.
That was, I don't know why, I just have to use the two sides, and I've been known to wait a fairly long time to use one, but it's a weird one. Obviously it doesn't work in the slightest, but for me it's just something I've always done and will always do.
Something you have to stick by.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to be the strangest answer we have on this podcast series from now. We'll have to take note of that. Okay, next one. Music that gets you in the zone before a game or a tournament. Is there an artist, an album, a playlist, something that you have on?
I'll listen to anything pretty chilled up until about 20 minutes before I go on, and then Skippinish or Scary Vor, especially when further away I am from home. So a bit of Scottish music put into my warm-up is a nice reminder for me of home.
Feels a sort of national pride when you go out there. Sure. Yeah, beautiful. You mentioned you've played other sports. What would one sport, if you weren't professional squash, you'd like to be professional in? It could be absolutely anything.
Golf, for sure. Follow the summer around. You get to be outside all the time. Do you play
a bit now?
Yeah, I do. I'm a fair weather player.
Yeah.
So, which there's not much of here. So I usually play more when I'm. My wife's Australian, so when we're back home, I get out with her brothers quite a bit and enjoy a game of golf then.
I wish I could be a pro in golf as well. I just can't get over that frustration of not being able to do it at the start. I don't have it in me, but I'll make it one day. We'll have to have a game. Your most memorable moment as a squash player?
Playing doubles with Rory Stewart at the Commonwealth Games. I think we won bronze medals. I played with Alan Klein at the previous Commonwealth Games, and we just missed out on a 4th place. So to get a medal for Scotland at the Commonwealth Games is probably my proudest and most memorable. Yeah.
And your most difficult opponent that you've faced in your squash career?
I just mentioned him, Alan Klein. He was the Scottish #1 for a long time before I was, and I managed to just get over him maybe before he was finished his career, but he's got a very favourable head-to-head record against me, and he was just someone I looked up to. We're from Inverness, the same club, and I guess we had a similar career path, and I was always the number 2, and to get over that hump of becoming number 1 was really difficult, and he didn't make it easy, but I'm proud to be Scottish #1, but he was definitely by far the toughest opponent and toughest challenge that I had mentally and physically to get over that hurdle.
Getting that reward at the end and beating him and getting to that first must have felt pretty good.
It did, but probably because I just had so much respect for the way he went about his business. Like ever since I came to Oriam and Henry Watt, he was training here and put in a lot of hard yards and worked extremely hard. So for me to challenge him, I think meant something to me, because I put in maybe equally or trying to put in as much hard work as he did. So it was a nice sort of reward to myself that I managed to maybe overcome that. But as I said, he didn't make it easy.
You've been a sort of key figure in Scottish sport, not just squash, over these last few years. We obviously have that sort of new generation coming through where they've maybe grown up in a different era, a different lifestyle in terms of playing sport. How have you seen sport evolve in Scotland in the last few years? Obviously you have that sort of connection to squash, you probably know more about it directly at squash, but have you seen across the years, whether that be training, diet, development, all those things, have you seen that change across the country in various ways?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess because I spend every day here, I do get access or see other sports operate too and how they go about their business. And I feel like a lot of sports now are taking on a whole like holistic approach to training and making sure that they're covered in areas that are off the court as well, not just on the court. And I think when I started, it was pretty much you must do X, Y, and Z on the court, and then everyone kind of left yourself to your own devices. And whereas now we're much more informed about sleep, nutrition, ways to go about like stuff in the gym, and to make sure that athletes are not just being at their pinnacle at 25 years old and that's kind of their peak, and then they'll be retired at 30. I mean, I'm 33 next month, and I'd like to think I've probably got a few more years left in me, whereas I think maybe when I started everyone was pretty much retired by that age. So everything's evolving. I feel like in 20 years time we'll be sitting here and athletes won't be peaking until 35 and stuff
until
like
50
that.
years
yeah,
old.
exactly, and still playing. So that's what I've seen evolving. That goes into obviously the more scientific research that goes into it, and more so like athletes are willing to listen to new research and not just be stubborn and think about old habits. So maybe that's what I've learned over the few years. And in terms of Scottish sport, I think we're doing great. I think we punch above our weight in most sports, and it's great to see like the Scottish rugby team doing so well. We're sort of regarded as a team that wins a lot more than they lose now. So I hope it keeps evolving and we become stronger as a sporting nation, because it's I think something that Scottish people in general, the general public, take great pride in, and something that athletes, for us especially representing Scotland, is the pinnacle for us. That's the most memorable moment for me, as I said, was the Commonwealth Games, and it was a part of a broader Team Scotland team, and those are the most special and memorable moments for me.
That development over the last few years, where obviously you go more into the science behind the data probably driven, have you enjoyed seeing that change, probably for yourself as well, playing squash? Have you enjoyed sort of going from maybe playing squash and training to the point now where you're sort of looking at your diet and the science behind things and recovery as well? Has that been quite an enjoyable process to go through as we became a bit more knowledgeable?
For sure. As I say, I think there's a lot of people at the Scottish Institute who are based out of Oriam as well that are there to answer any questions that you've got, and I've enjoyed it because I just sport manic, really, just enjoy every part of it and always looking for improvements, and that's what I guess all athletes strive for each time they step on the court or the pitch. And I enjoy looking at the data. I also enjoy, I don't think there's any sort of substitute for hard work. I think we can delve into all the stats and stuff, but if you're not really putting the work in on or off the court, you're not really going to see the results. So I like a mixture of both. I'm fairly old school in that sense as well, that if people are doing all the right things by the book, but they're not necessarily putting in sort of real hard efforts in the gym or on court, then they're not really going to see the results. So I like to have a little bit of old school mentality in that sense as well with the new data that's coming in. So, and I think that's if there was one thing that's been lost with the new sort of athletes coming through in all sports is maybe that. And if we can get out, if I'm advising anyone, I'd try and get that sort of message across more than the data and the new things that are working out. There's no real substitute for the hard yards, I think.
That's kind of, it sort of leads me in brilliantly to this next section, because I was going to say, we have so many great athletes coming up, as you mentioned, rugby, for example, in Scotland really taking off, and we are becoming a lot more successful. What would your advice be to 16, 17-year-old kid coming up, whether that be in squash, rugby, football? What would your advice be to them in terms of making it up to that next stage, and not just making it, but maintaining it as well? Obviously, getting there is difficult, but probably keeping it that level for a prolonged period of time is probably the hardest part about it. Is that the type of advice that you would give to a young squash player coming up through the ranks now? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I think if I'm using myself as an example, that's all I can kind of go off from experience. But at that sort of age, I was doing a bit of research into maybe deciding this was going to be my future. And if you're at that stage and you feel like that's the decision you want to make, I would have looked back. I think I gave myself a sort of 3 to 4 year sort of timeline, and if I wasn't feel like I was progressing in any way or sustaining a living, I would have gone to plan B. I'd didn't have a plan B, but that would have been something that I would have gone into a bit of a panic about, I guess, after a few years. But like go all in. Like that would be my advice. I think, as I said, there's no substitute for hard work, and I was lucky enough that I had Alan Klein and people that I had role models coming up that were putting in that work, and it was very easy for me to identify, well, if I want to become any good, I'm going to have to at least put in the effort that they're doing right now, or more, to catch up, and that's what I kind of set out to do. I had people in front of me that were doing good things, and I just thought, right, I need to catch up, and that's I guess what I did. And I was there's that saying, like, what's the hard work beats talent, if talent doesn't work, hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's a really good saying, because I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Looking towards the future now, obviously you mentioned you've got your dissertation coming up for one. You also mentioned probably a few more years playing squash. What do the next 5 to 10 years look like for you? Do you have anything sort of laid out in your mind in terms of taking that next step in your career, or are you got a bit of a blank canvas at the moment?
Fairly blank canvas. I'm not really. I think for good reasons, athletes struggle with a transition from becoming an athlete to, I guess, more of a normal environment, normal job. And I can understand why the best parts of my career are either representing Scotland, or you're going in front of a crowd and you're getting to play squash for a living and they're cheering for you, you're getting announced, your name's getting announced, and those are really fleeting moments, but they're really cool as well. And then you go back to sort of maybe waking up one day and you don't have a training session to do, and you kind of feel like, maybe what's the purpose? But I also feel like I don't want to necessarily highlight an event, and that's when I'm going to retire, because injuries can happen, you might not get that far. So I'm kind of just waiting to see my next sort of move, whether that's with my job, my wife's job, family situations. We'll just see. It's a fairly blank canvas. I'm studying international sports management because that's an area where I want to focus on when I retire. So. Who knows? My wife's Australian, and one day we would like to live in Australia. So I don't know whether that's 5 to 10 years or sooner or later. I couldn't answer that. But the Olympics is going to be there in 2032, so maybe some job opportunities will come up. Yeah, I don't know, but some job opportunities might come up here. So it's fairly blank canvas, but I'm not dreading the day I retire from squash. I think as long as I find something that sort of fills that purpose, and I think I will, and I'll enjoy sort of my time after squash, I hope.
I think that's the perfect sort of answer, because I hate when I get asked, I don't know why I've asked it. When I get asked 10 years, like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 10 years' time, but... Yeah,
I don't know, and I guess I didn't know when I was 17 what that would look like, and I don't think it's necessarily ever going to change, but I feel like I've got a good idea of what I'd like to do, whether that comes up. I mean, I guess it's a lot of it's just timing. Yeah. Like, whether you're in a job that you like and something else becomes advertised, or you take a job and the job you actually wanted was like the one that you didn't see, or you just don't know. So but I'm interested in enough of sport that I feel like I'll dip into something that I enjoy at one stage.
Yeah, taking that moment when it comes, right? Yeah,
hopefully.
Worrying about it.
Hopefully.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for your time today.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We wish you all the best luck for, most importantly, your dissertation, but for the next few years.
Yeah, that word's been said too many times.
Yeah, I know. Too much a university podcast. But no, listen, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.